everyone. Thank you so much for watching Chicago this week. I'm Katerina Alexopoulos. Ever since a leak of a draft opinion showed that Supreme Court voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, activists on both sides of the issue have been speaking out. We begin the show with live team coverage. Our reporters talk to demonstrators, lawmakers, religious leaders, and medical professionals. Let's start with Taylor Woods, who is live downtown. Taylor, you talk to people with personal connections to the abortion issue, correct?
That's right, Kat. Women as young as 16 years old march for safer abortion rights, and some even tell me they either know a family member or friend who has been affected by this.
I had an illegal abortion in a doctor's basement office in Pittsburgh when I was 17, and the fight...
A demonstration followed by a march that brought women of all ages together.
It makes me so mad and infuriated that my grandma had to do this exact same protest 50 years ago.
And the fight for abortion rights continues for women and their legacy in the wake of Roe versus Wade.
I have two daughters that are in their 30s. I want to do this before I'm gone.
Demonstrators flooded the streets with signs while chanting and marching on Michigan Avenue. But for some, it's more personal.
My great-grandmother died from a botched abortion, so it's really frustrating seeing people try to take away the right for safe abortions.
These women feel that equal rights can only happen if each generation does its part.
I'm in my 40s, so I'm in that generation that was born always having the right to an abortion. We will never give that up for our younger sisters and non-binary relatives. Never.
Our Chantel Robb was also at the rally downtown. Chantel, you heard from protesters and politicians. What did they say?
Hi, Katerina. That's right. I had the chance to talk to some pro-choice demonstrators at Saturday's rally that ended right here in Congress Plaza. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker also made an appearance to reaffirm his stance and support for reproductive rights here in Illinois.
My body, my choice.
After news broke of the Supreme Court's leaked draft opinion to overturn Roe v. Wade, protests ensued across the country.
We will not go back!
Including here in Chicago. Hundreds of women and men, young and old, marched in Federal Plaza this past weekend to rally around the abortion rights granted in that 1973 landmark decision. For many, supporting this cause is deeply personal.
When I was in college, one of my friends needed an abortion because she was raped at a college party. And to feel so much shame over something that she had no control over, and if she had any choice, she wouldn't have been in that situation, that's why I'm here.
I know so many women who have gotten abortions, and I just think it's insane that SCOTUS has decided to take a giant step back. And all these people are people that none of us have chosen to represent us.
Someone you love has had an abortion, whether you know it or not. And you should make it your job to be the kind of person that someone would feel safe divulging that information to.
State level and local leaders also joined the call for action.
Politicians do not belong in the doctor's office, period.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker made an appearance and vowed to protect Illinois' reproductive rights.
I'm proud that Illinois is an island for reproductive freedom in the Midwest. But our shores remain open for any person left marooned by these extremist politicians.
Thanks, Chantel. For more now on the opinion of the governor and other Illinois lawmakers, let's go live to Mary Chappell. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Kat. Many Illinois elected officials are defending reproductive rights. Some promised last week that abortion will remain legal in Illinois, regardless of what the Supreme Court decides this summer. Since Politico's unprecedented leak of the draft opinion saying the landmark Roe v. Wade decision should be overruled, Illinois elected officials have spoken out defending reproductive rights.
Let me be clear. No matter what atrocious opinion the Supreme Court officially rolls out this summer in regards to Roe v. Wade, abortion is safe and legal in Illinois.
The decision, written by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, says the Constitution doesn't make reference to abortion. Alito described Roe as an abuse of judicial authority and said the issue of abortion needs to return to the people's elected representatives.
It is a draft, and abortion remains legal in the U.S. right now. And it remains legal and will remain legal in Illinois for as long as we can hold that line.
Illinois Senator Dick Durbin also emphasized that everyone deserves health care access, including women.
Regardless of the Supreme Court's final decision this summer, Congress cannot sit idly by, nor can this committee. We must enshrine into law a woman's right to make her own health care choices.
We will fight like hell, not just for the women of Illinois, but for every person in our state and every person across this nation who believes not in limiting civil rights and human rights, but in expanding them. That is freedom.
The anti-abortion movement has been led largely by religious communities who say ending a pregnancy is equivalent to murder. Some consider abortion a sin, but other faith leaders are speaking out in support of reproductive rights. Stephanie Kafua is live with that part of the story.
Thanks, Katerina. It's been a busy week for protesters around the country as the fate of Roe v. Wade stays unknown. I caught up with 2 Jewish rabbis to get their take on the divisive topic.
When we talk about the Torah, we don't only mean the written 5 books that we often look to, but we really mean the entire corpus of rabbinic tradition in which the written text is constantly wrestled with and interpreted. And it's there that the rabbis state incredibly explicitly in the first 40 days when a fetus is conceived that it's considered just like water. They say that the life of the person who is carrying the child takes precedence.
Following last week's leak of the Supreme Court draft opinion, the fate of Roe v. Wade has left many anxious for the future. Several female leaders in the Jewish faith have become outspoken activists in their communities. One such rabbi, Rachel Pass, has been open about her own personal abortion experience.
A portion of the people who came to me were women rabbis telling me of their own experience. Hundreds of people came forward saying, like, this was my abortion story. I didn't know that I could talk about that with a rabbi in a Jewish setting with this kind of language.
Illinois now finds itself in a unique position as it braces for the potential influx of women from neighboring states where abortion may become banned. For Rabbi Rachel, she, like many, turned to religious texts to help grapple.
To see these email responses that were using language of like, it's a sin, that is nowhere to be found in Jewish tradition.
So what is expected to happen if abortion becomes illegal? Manhan Shao spoke to an expert at the Feinberg School of Medicine to get answers. Hi, Manhan.
If Roe v. Wade is overturned, about half of U.S. states are likely to ban or restrict abortion. Experts warn that it can put women's health at risk. You mentioned in your Twitter post that overturning Roe v. Wade will cause a higher maternal mortality rate. Can you explain more about this to us?
Yes. If abortion is banned or made illegal, then it is not going to take away abortion at all. And what could happen indeed is a rise in septic abortion. That is quite a substantive impact. And in addition to that, those people who have less resources, so maybe they're poorer, they live in more rural areas or in states where there will be trigger laws or laws that will outlaw abortion in the entire state, will have to travel long distances. And so people in those circumstances who either have to travel hundreds of miles, if not 1,000 miles to get an abortion, or who don't have the resources to pay to fly, will be super impacted by this law.
The abortions for out-of-state women are expected to surge. Do you think our state's health system are fully prepared for that?
There likely will be an increase in people who come to Illinois, for example, specifically Chicago, to obtain abortion. Now, is the system prepared for that? I'm not sure. We have capacity, but I'm not sure about the volume.
Thanks, Manhan. On to other news now. The crime wave that has been impacting downtown Chicago has residents worried. One recent attack was caught on video. You can see how quickly it turned violent. A chilling video that rattled the Lincoln Park neighborhood. 23-year-old Dakota Early was robbed at gunpoint and shot 3 times at the corner of Webster and Wayne, a few minutes from the Lincoln Park campus of DePaul University. Students were immediately notified.
I am just so overwhelmed by the amount of emails that I get.
I try to keep up with it just because I feel like it's important to know that, especially since I go here and I should be aware about everything.
Makes you think more about when you're walking around day to day.
Minutes before the shooting, a DePaul student was also robbed on campus, and detectives believe that the two crimes are related.
So that is a new dynamic where we see decreases in areas that normally have both the volume and the increase in volume. And increases where we normally don't have the kinds of increases.
It definitely keeps my guard up more.
Honestly, I don't really feel comfortable, especially as a female, walking alone at night.
It's scary. Take, self-defense tools with me of sorts, especially if I'm going to be out late.
Like it's too late, like they just take it like public safety because they don't want to go home alone.
Time now for some international news. The Philippines elected a new leader. Voting took place over the last week. Filipino citizens living here in Chicago were able to vote from here. Rafael Hipos is live with more. Hi, Rafael.
Hi, Kat. I'm here outside the Philippine consulate. According to the unofficial count, Bongbong Marcos, son of late dictator Ferdinand Marcos, has won more than 58% of the vote. I took a look at how Filipinos here in Illinois voted, as well as showed their support for their respective candidates.
Members of Illinois' Filipino-American community came together last week to show their support for their chosen candidates in the Philippine general election. Dozens of Kakampinks flocked to Morton Grove in support of Vice President Leni Robredo, who has inspired a grassroots movement among Filipinos across the globe.
They don't have corruption issues. They don't have anything that, involve any corruption.
I support Leni Kiko because of her progressive stance on many different policies, especially for youth, indigenous people.
The race's frontrunner, Bongbong Marcos, is the son of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who ruled the country for 20 years and tortured and killed hundreds of dissidents.
I was one of those picked up by the soldiers, and I was incarcerated for a year. We were thrown into the jail just like common criminals.
While many voters in the Philippines had to contend with long lines, voting here in the United States has been relatively simple. Voters in the Midwest can mail their ballots to the Philippine consulate in Chicago or drop them off in person. Overseas voting has been open since April 10, though many voters in the Midwest reported delays in the arrival of their ballots.
We only received the ballots and other election materials from COMELEC on the 4th of April. That's why there was a delay in the mailing of ballots to all the registered voters here in the Midwest.
Hi, I'm Melissa Grabinski, and this is the Business Report. Many shop owners have had a tough year. High fuel prices are impacting costs. Supply chain issues make it hard to get certain items, and COVID cases are back up again. Winnie Shu stopped by one business trying to make it through all of the challenges. Hi, Winnie.
Hi, Alyssa. Can you imagine preparing for years trying to open your own business in 2020 when the pandemic hit and had to postpone it until now? Fran Matos told me how excited she is that she's finally able to open her own coffee shop in downtown.
2 years after Fran Matos signed her lease right when the pandemic hit, her dream of opening a coffee shop finally came true.
Everyone has been super welcoming and supportive, and they were always asking, when are you going to reopen? We can't wait for you to reopen. So just to kind of like being able to see them now and serve them on a daily basis is just really amazing.
Originally from Puerto Rico, Matos has always loved coffee as part of her childhood.
There was coffee at all times of the day. People would come in, grab a cup of coffee, check in, and then move on with the rest of their day. I kind of wanted to recreate that a little, just to be a little bit of a community spot.
And now people are coming in not just for the cup of coffee.
I just like to support local businesses, especially with the economy being what it is and so many places had to shut down.
Even when Matos finally overcame the pandemic, she is now faced with another problem: supply chain issues.
Some of the milks, oat milk, has been on shortage, and then some of the
just like cups and things too. Fran's been running around looking for all these materials and just going to different suppliers.
Challenges won't stop coming up, but neither will they stop Maddows from pursuing her dream.
Of course, have a good day.
Thanks, Winnie. For some local businesses, the biggest challenge is major competition. Our Lindsay Tanney is live to explain what happens when Whole Foods moves to the neighborhood.
It's like the best thing that's happened in the last few months.
A new Whole Foods opens in River North, right across the Red Line on Chicagoan State.
It's kind of like the heart and soul of the city. The Red Line meets the Whole Foods.
Residents notice change in the neighborhood.
Everything's got a lot nicer since this Whole Foods has come in, and they redid the concrete. There's bikes over here now, so I feel like there's a lot of perks for living within a few blocks of here.
I just feel like this building just add a little bit of, a little oomph to the city. It's nice on the inside for sure. Like, it's real nice.
The problem in the neighborhood is that literally 800 feet away, a local market has been here for more than 70 years. Potash declined to comment, but they did recently put up these signs.
Potash, I can't imagine it's doing well.
I would say probably it'll hurt it in the long run, but I guess it also depends on price point as well.
Every time I went there, I'd be upset. I'd say, it's too much money. It costs too much. I can't afford this, but I did it. And then this gorgeous Whole Foods just opened up.
How do you think the new opening will affect small businesses that are around here?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Because there is a thing about big businesses kind of taking over little small businesses. It will probably have a hard time maintaining their clients and their customer base.
People know what they're getting at Whole Foods, and I think that sort of assurance is not always there with a local market.
Thank you, Lindsay. For some consumers, there are still certain items they don't want to get at the big chain stores like Walmart or Home Depot. Amber Cooper is here to show us that boutiques are finding that smaller is still better for some shoppers. Hi, Amber.
Hey, Alyssa, if you're looking to start a garden, this owner is here to help you get started. A local business owner has found a way to combine her passions, a salon, and now a blossoming plant shop.
In the Burbs started as part of a passion project. I've always been into gardening and houseplants over the last couple years, and then when COVID came, I needed a way to make some extra money. And I started a website, and then that rolled into doing an actual plant pop-up.
TJ is hands-on with clients to help them make the right purchase.
She has helped me with my plants. I used to overwater my plants. I had plants in the home, didn't never keep them, and just knowing how to just give them sunlight and leave them alone, a little water here and there, has helped me.
Every Saturday, there's a free plant giveaway and a chance to get planting advice.
And you're positive with them and you give them good energy, they respond positively to it.
The health trend of buying all natural, all organic items is moving beyond just food. In this next report, I find that what you put on your body is just as important as what you put in it. After seeing the HBO Max documentary, Not So Pretty, some have begun to take their personal care products to the trash.
There are over 10,000 industrial chemicals used to formulate personal care products today.
Emma Whistler first started exploring the link between her products and her health after being diagnosed with a hormonal disorder.
And one of the things that I learned, and this was 7 or so years ago, was that there are all of these chemicals in our products called endocrine disruptors that basically mimic our natural hormones and can disrupt its natural function, and that they're present in so many of the products that we use daily.
She eventually decided to create her own clean skincare line.
For me, clean beauty starts from an ingredients perspective. So using ingredients that are less harmful to your body and less harmful to the planet. So that's going to include ingredients that are non-carcinogenic, ingredients that are non-bioaccumulative, things that don't mimic your natural hormones, things that don't cause damage to our waterways and to the earth.
Another Chicago business, Lena Rose Beauty, is a holistic spa and salon that offers services like manicures, facials, and more.
I want to be that place where if people do have genuine health concerns about what they're putting on their body, they don't have to worry about what they buy off my shelf. And we've really curated and landed on what I think are the best on the market right now. And we've used them facials. So like, you see 1,500 faces a year, you know what works and what doesn't.
Hi everybody, thanks for sticking around for Chicago This Week Sports. I'm Jessica Lazo. This week, the governor of Tennessee banned transgender athletes from competing in collegiate athletics. Similar laws were passed in Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Montana, and Florida. Mackenzie Richmond is live now with a closer look on the issue.
Leah Thomas competed on the women's swim team at the University of Pennsylvania in the 2021-2022 season. She made history by becoming the first transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I championship. This win sparked a fierce debate earlier this year over whether transgender athletes have an unfair advantage when competing.
It's really heartbreaking for myself and, past, present, and future female athletes who have fought so hard to be there and will have to continue to fight to break that barrier.
And so for one athlete, they sacrificed all the women in the sport.
The conversation is not meant to be transphobic.
After puberty, after male puberty in particular, the gap between men and women grows to about, depends on the sport and depends on the event, but, between 10 and 50%. So the more that the sport requires that explosive power, the more that that male puberty makes a difference. Leah shifted events to take advantage of that explosive power more into the sprints, the very best women in the world, when they are the same height and weight as the very best men, that there is still that huge 10, 12, 50% gap between men and women.
Joining me now live in the studio for more on the story is Sarah Berman with Medill Reports. Sarah, you're a journalist and a former collegiate swimmer. You also covered the story of the first transgender woman to win the NCAA Division I competition. What reaction did you notice from spectators and fellow athletes?
Thanks for having me, Kenzie. Well, the 500 freestyle took place on the second day of competition, and it was the first event of the day. Right outside of the natatorium at Georgia Tech, there were protesters with Save Women's Sports that were protesting Thomas's attendance at the meet and engaging with people outside of the facility. When Thomas swam, they entered the facility and observed and also made comments while Thomas was on the block and after Thomas finished. While Thomas was on the block, someone in the crowd yelled, "Cheater," which not only affected her, but the other 7 swimmers in the heat. After Thomas finished, someone misgendered her and yelled, "She's a man."
So what are your thoughts now about political leaders taking action against allowing transgender athletes to compete?
Yeah, so people that I've talked to at the meet and my former teammates have all voiced that this shouldn't be a political issue. This should be boiled down to the science and the experts and the NCAA who have invested time, money, and resources in figuring out what the fair balance is. And our political leaders, people think, should be guiding an open dialogue for figuring out what's best.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. We loved hearing your opinions and all your thoughts.
Thanks, Mackenzie. The NCAA stated that in order to compete, transgender student athletes will need documented levels at the beginning of their season. The athletes' hormones are also tested throughout their time competing as well. The NCAA issued a policy in support of transgender student athletes in order to provide an inclusive, fair, safe, and respectful environment.
After a 2-year absence because of the pandemic, the Special Olympics are finally back in Chicago. The opening ceremonies kicked off in Soldier Field, and our Elise Devlin is live there now. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Jess. What's unique about Chicago ceremonies is that the very first International Special Olympic Games in 1968 was actually held here at Soldier Field. Dancing, cheering, pictures, and more dancing filled Soldier Field as the Special Olympics opening ceremonies took place on Thursday.
My entire student population comes here and it's like one of the best days ever. It's so fun.
With it being the biggest event of the year for the organization, it's also the best way to connect everyone together.
You got people from the north side, the south side, east side, west side, schools within the suburbs and outside of the suburbs. Everybody comes together in one place and just have a really good time.
Thursday marked the first spring opening games in 2 years because of the pandemic, yet the preparation never stopped.
As soon as this ends, they'll start preparing for it next year. It's how it is. It's always moving parts. It takes, I would say, 9 months of preparation for just a small event, but the end result is great.
The games kick off this week with the athletes competing in more than 25 track and field events at Eckersall Stadium.
Seeing these athletes do this every year is just a joy.
Chicago is about to host another huge sporting event this summer. It's often compared to Formula One racing, but in the water. Bailey Eichner is live with more. Hi, Bailey.
Thanks, Jess. The most exciting on-water racing event is coming right to Chicago. Sail GP is making their debut right here on Lake Michigan. With F50s going up to 60 miles per hour, you won't want to miss it.
Exciting on-water racing is coming to freshwaters near you. Navy Pier was selected as the second event in the U.S. Sail Grand Prix of Season 3. This event is part of a 2-year hosting agreement between Sail GP and Chicago.
States Sail GP team, Rome, say hi to everybody.
I think our team's pretty excited to race here. Another home event for us, which is huge. Winning on home waters would be pretty special. We've been pretty close to winning quite a few events. We've either broken something or had a few things not go our way, and haven't quite been able to get over that hurdle of winning, but we've been on the podium pretty consistently, so it'd be nice to come win an event.
The U.S. Sail Grand Prix marks its first time the championship has ever been completed on fresh water. It'll be on Lake Michigan directly in front of the Chicago skyline. 10 national teams in their F50s will race for the Grand Prix Cup and a winning prize of $1 million.
He was a high school basketball superstar. He was so good, he was even featured in the movie Hoop Dreams. Tragically, he was the victim of gun violence. It changed his life forever.
Hoop Dreams star and former Marshall High School coach Sean Harrington makes his way back to teaching basketball 8 years after he was shot and paralyzed.
When the opportunity presented itself, to work with kids, I definitely jumped on it, and being able to grasp their attention and being able to still teach them from a chair. I didn't know how they was going to be receptive or how hard it was going to be, but the kids have been awesome.
And through his teaching, Harrington hopes he can also inspire the kids on and off the court.
Everything is life lessons that I'm trying to teach these kids. Everything through my life lessons, if I can share it in a way or relate it to them in a way where it's relatable to them, the fact that I can have their attention, I can still teach them these little things. Just being a good friend to each other. It's still so fulfilling.
And he does just that.
He represents what it is to be a great coach. He makes me practice harder than I've ever done before. And when I'm the only girl in this basketball camp, he makes me feel like I belong.
But the kids aren't the only ones impacted by Harrington's determination and positive presence.
Just his passion to want to help kids, though. And, and just the fact that he's able to come out here with the energy and perseverance, and just not even think about what happened to him in his life, though. That's one of the main things that he's been such an inspiration to me.
Along with coaching, Sean Harrington also does motivational speaking. He works with the No Books, No Ball Foundation, and he also has a book called All the Dreams We've Dreamed.
Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. That is all the time we have for now. Have a great week and enjoy the warm weather.